This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, what do you want to talk about today?
Happy Easter. I had a wonderful Easter. What'd you have for Easter? Yeah, it's outside. The weather was great.
Show.
No, just trying to buy time while the wheels spin in my head. Yeah, not a lot going on in the football world.
Why don't we talk about the draft?
Okay, the draft seems like a good call. Yep, maybe the Steelers a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
We probably should. And now, I mean, this week's crazy because it's so close. I mean, it's Thursday.
This is prime lying season.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, like, there's not even visits this week. I mean, the teams are putting
Everybody's
really the finishing
down.
touches on their board, and I'm sure there's a lot of calls being made. That's what's going on right now. Even like the free agents, maybe Aaron Rodgers aside, but I mean, like, free agents aren't getting any calls at the moment. They will right after the draft, when he gets short a position or whateber. But
they might even get calls during the draft.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Day 3.
We missed on that. We better make a call right now.
Yep. I mean, some of these veterans that are definitely going to be playing in the league will be, latching on shortly. But really, what's really happening is these guys are staring at the board, all making their case for their favorite guy or trying to pigeonhole things. And believe it or not, they do versions of mock drafts too,
Yeah, just based on, okay, who do we think is going to be available? And that's one of the things that really stood out to me when we looked at the Steelers' visits over the last couple of years with Omar Khan.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have a pretty good idea of how the board stacks up.
Right,
and who's going to be available to them at
Fourth
their
round,
pick.
5th round, all that
or
stuff
even
too.
In the first round, they seem like the cluster of guys that they've looked at or brought in are guys who they're not bringing in top 10 guys.
No, right. They're not. Why would that guy come in for?
Yeah,
he has no chance of being there. Right.
The guys that they've brought in have been people who've been drafted right around their pick, which is interesting.
It is. Like, this happened a lot at Pitt, especially when I was in the recruiting world, because we would do our best to compete with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State in particular.
Didn't do so well,
right. I mean, you come in second a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of wasted time and a lot of heartbreak. A kid gets down to the wire, and you're like, oh, we didn't get him.
I've spent 40 hours on the phone with this guy.
Oh, yeah, he's been to games. We've been hanging out. I know his family, blah, blah, blah. And coming in second's the worst. It'd be almost like it was a great experience. I got to meet the family and all that. But it'd be better if we just didn't talk to him at all.
Well,
and we spent
in that way, it's kind of like, if you've ever played Madden college football.
I haven't,
not Madden
but I
college
get it.
Football,
Right.
whatever it's called back in college football. The
yeah.
game. And you get so many hours that you can spend on a player.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to pick and choose who you –
Right.
And so, if you expend a lot of energy on this 5-star recruit –
and you have no chance at him.
On your resources, and you don't get him. It's
right.
like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, we sent LeBron an offer, but we didn't spend hundreds of hours trying to convince LeBron James to come to Pitt to play a receiver.
Yeah.
That was a pretty fruitless effort. I mean, he was going to be the first pick of the NBA draft in a couple months, But coming in second's the worst. To your point, though, why do a ton of homework on the top 12 guys? I mean, yes, you want them for your files. They're going to become free agents. You're going to play against them. You do your due diligence. But even the biggest of scouting staffs only have so many hours and so much manpower. You got to use it properly. And that comes from the GM, GM to the college director. How are we going to use our hours? And even these scouts going into the season, a big thing they do leading up to the regular season is they prepare their schedule for the week. I'm going to go to Idaho here, and then I'm going to go to Montana. And you run it by your director, and sometimes they'll tell you, that's not a very efficient use of time. Or, frankly, you're not home enough. Go home a little bit. At least see your family for once, So that kind of stuff's important, the efficiency of where you spend your time.
Yeah, and, I think when you look at the Steelers' pre-draft visits this year, and we talked about this, one thing that I did notice, while, yes, they brought in several first-round prospects.
There was 2 odd ones.
There were 2 odd ones, but those are guys that might be available. Let's say everything wrong happened ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these guys might be there.
I mean, they're certainly intriguing players.
Yeah, golden to a certain degree. Are you going to take another wide receiver when you spent your second round?
It's a pretty clear round one
Yeah.
player. I guess Golden is a little odd, but I
But
was thinking Enumari and Stewart. Yeah,
But it might be a situation where, okay, all the quarterbacks are gone, all the defensive linemen are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are guys that might still be there. Would we consider taking them at
I'm
those
sure there's
spots?
a lot they like about them.
Sure.
I mean, the athleticism's crazy for both those players. They're the two freakiest guys out there. Golden aside, do you need a safety? Do you need a big edge? No, but someone in the building that's evaluating them probably still has a high grade on them or
Right.
a reasonably, a lot of interest in them. And would it be terrible to tell the league you really like those guys, so someone that really wants them goes ahead of you to take them in the top 20, and then you're like, oh, one more player fell to us that we really want,
But the interesting thing to me about it is that there were a lot of visitors that I expect that are going to go after round one
And before round 3.
and before their pick at 83.
Right. Alexander.
Presumably.
I mean, we don't know 100%, but we got a pretty good clue.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking and studying this for a long time, and even the most out in draft, Nick, doesn't know 100% how the draft's going to go. But you got a pretty good idea that the big D tackle, Alexander from Toledo, is going to be on the board at 21. I don't think he's going to be on the board at 83.
Right.
And they seem to have a lot of interest in him. He was their last visit. He fits their type to a T, and there's a lot of those examples. A couple of the receivers they mentioned, a couple of the D linemen really fall in that no man's land where you have picks.
Yeah. And like even the cornerbacks, Trey Amos and Azaria Thomas, like,
Are you using 21 on Amos? You probably have to if you're going to get him with the
if
current
you,
picks.
if you want him,
right.
that's where you're going to have to take him because he's not going to be there at 83.
No. And Thomas, I think, has no chance to be the 21st pick.
Right.
So
it just makes me wonder if they're going to make a move to try to get back into that second round. I think they would like to, ideally, but how do you do that? What's the best way to accomplish that?
Yeah, it might be a series of moves. It's hard, like when we do our mocks, we usually make one trade back move. But sometimes, if you can move back 2 or 3 spots, still get the guy you like, package something else up and
to move.
a future pick or a player we're not thinking of, or I don't know, but I do think they're not just going to sit in their hands and pick 21, 83. Okay, it's our turn. They're going to at least make efforts to move around.
What I don't think is going to happen is I don't see the Steelers trading a player.
I really don't.
They're not trading George Pickens. They're not trading T.J. Watt.
No, Minka, certainly not.
No.
Siamalu, there's no starter in place. I mean, you're not going to get proper value.
All you're doing when you do that is opening up a hole. Now, if you do something like that, you want to do it from where you have an excess.
Right.
Not open another hole on your roster.
Yeah. And
for a draft pick that you don't know if it's going to hit or not.
The
or
only
whether he's
way
going to help you this year.
there's no way Water Minka moves, and 1,000%. I mean, the only thing I could see is we have such a high grade on Golden. We can't believe he's there. We're going to take him and try to move George for a day 2 pick. I mean, it would have to be because we drafted this player, we can now move a vet. I just don't see it, though.
You've still created the hole.
Mm-hmm.
You've drafted before the hole, but you didn't fill the needs that you had going into the draft.
Right. You didn't change. You just moved the
you
chairs
just shifted
around.
some stuff around.
Got a little younger, a little cheaper, whatever, different style, blah blah blah. Is that enough for a first round pick? Probably not.
But you have legitimate needs going into this draft that you have to fill.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They need probably 2 defensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
They need a guy who they can presumably play at nose tackle. They need a long-term replacement for Cam Hayward.
Yep.
Even if you want to move, as we've talked about a lot, you want to take, you got rid of Ogunjobi.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to move somebody to outside or to defensive end, presumably, presumably Keanu Benton.
Yeah, right.
You want to play him at defensive end. Well, then you definitely need a nose.
No, you definitely need a nose. And some of these guys can do both, but there's just not enough highly capable bodies in the D-line room for my liking at the moment, especially when you factor in Hayward's age.
And I we saw Cam's snaps go from he had always played 80% in previous years down to 70% last year, and he was very effective playing 70% of the snaps.
I'd love to see 2/3, 70. Right now, that's what you need.
The problem then becomes When he wasn't on the field, they
bad.
gave up 1.5 yards more per carry.
Yeah, I mean that's
When he wasn't on the
stark
field, when he
difference.
wasn't on the field, I saw it numerous times last year where the opposing offense made sure he couldn't get back onto the field.
Let's go hurry up.
Let's go hurry up.
Yeah,
We're
right.
just going to run the football here and hurry up because Hayward's not out there.
Probably even more than Watt.
Yeah.
Just because the fall off from star to replacement was stark.
Now, there was also some of that where, okay, now we got Hayward and Watt off the field.
Well, now, yeah.
Now we really want to go fast.
Right. But, hey, would it be so terrible to try to defend a run with Benton and Grant in your nickel?
No.
I'll take my chances there. Right.
Right.
It's fixable.
It is fixable in this draft.
This draft.
The way this draft lines up.
Right. End up with Grant and Ty Robinson or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, right.
Yeah, now I got something. Or I get Harmon and Caldwell.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of combinations that would really help this team.
Yeah. So
For short and long term.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You need a running back.
Yeah, you do.
To add to the equation. And again, the draft sets up well for that.
And there's other things you'd like.
You'd like to get another quarterback here.
Mm-hmm.
But without that second-round pick right now, when you start matching up those needs with where you can get those guys,
and I think you agree too. But I still would much rather look at the draft through that lens than we don't have DK Metcalf and we do have the second-round pick.
Right.
Well,
again,
you're not finding a DK Metcalf in the second round of this draft.
No doubt, and that's why I've said all along, DK Metcalf was the biggest offseason acquisition for an offensive skill player, and I'm including the quarterbacks in the NFL this offseason.
That's him
for somebody who changed anybody who changed teams.
Right. There weren't big name receivers flying around.
No,
AJ Brown didn't get traded.
Najee Harris was the biggest running back that moved. Right. DK Metcalf's more impactful than that.
Yeah, and he's harder to find.
Yeah, and
especially in this draft.
For Seattle, moving from Geno to Darnold.
Right. It's big for the Raiders to add Geno.
Right.
But
is he as big of a player or as impactful of a player as Metcalf? Not in my opinion.
Yeah, because he's a quarterback, I see the argument. But
right.
in terms of pecking order versus their peers at their position, I'm with you. Yeah. Right. I mean, Metcalf's pretty rare.
Yeah, because the top receivers in this free agency period didn't change teams.
Right.
The offensive linemen that changed teams weren't earth movers, or weren't.
And frankly,
wasn't that big of a deal.
If the Metcalf trade never happens, I don't want to be sitting here with you for the last month going, boy, I hope McMillan falls.
Yeah, can we get Jamie Higgins in the second round?
Maybe that'll fix the problem. Maybe it won't. I don't know. Or should we just take Ibuka and take the bird in the hand and pass on Walter Nolan? Like, I don't want to do that.
It just sets up well to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
The question I've been asked...
How can they do another maneuver, get more?
The question I've been asked is, well, would you trade Pickens on day 2 if one of these receivers is sitting there, Jack Beck or Eamon, or I'm like...
It'd have to be a tier above that.
I'm not trading out George Pickens for a Eamon, because the team that's trading him, or the team that wants to trade for Pickens, is telling me that they don't feel those players are equal to Pickens.
Right.
Or they would just take those players.
They would just take those players.
Because they're going to be cheaper you got them for a longer term. Mm-hmm. Like, you would just take those players.
I mean, none of those guys are as talented as Pickens, obviously.
No.
Now there is a little difference with, is he a pain in the butt? You got to pay him. I mean, those things matter. So maybe I could be convinced if someone's going to offer you the pick that Ibuka is still there. Okay, maybe. Maybe. But am I trading Pickens for Alexander that's a non-receiver?
No.
Probably not. No. Right. Then I got another hole, and in the third round, I'm reaching on a receiver that I like and don't love. You know,
and I think that's why I don't think they're going to trade Pickens.
I don't either. I really don't.
I don't think they're definitely not trading Watt.
I think they've been down the road where we have one dangerous receiver and then a bunch of guys trying to be there, and it's not a world they want to live in again.
Yeah, if you do that, now you're back in the same situation you were last year, where we're talking about, okay, that's all well and good. You got DK Metcalf. What happens if he gets hurt?
Mm-hmm. Right. It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad, right. And Austin and Wilson are good players, you hope. I mean, but they're not, oh, man, we got to stay in cover 2. Or
there's a chance you're better off than you were last year at that time when you're playing Van Jefferson. And
you'd hope so, right.
But you don't know yet.
You don't know yet. I mean, you hope Wilson's a regular contributor. Austin probably is what he is, which is good. I'm a fan. I'm with you. Again, I think the plan is let's have two problem childs on the outside that are hard to deal with.
Yeah.
That defenses look at it and go, that's a problem.
And there's
We
always
have a tough time putting extra guys in the box.
what I think people overlook. And hey, George Pickens is not a dumb guy.
No, right.
He's headstrong,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not a dumb guy. He understands he's playing for a contract.
Well, they all do.
They know that.
They know
his
that,
agents told him,
right.
hey, George, you're playing for a contract this year.
Right.
Let's.
Pouting on the sideline might not help, or giving minimal effort in any regard. I mean, isn't going to help your earning power.
Right.
With the Steelers, or
Whether
another
it's
team.
with the Steelers or whether it's with whoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to be a different guy. And I also think having a guy like DK Metcalf in the locker room with him, I haven't seen where they put their lockers yet.
Yeah.
But I might put DK Metcalf right next to
They
George.
may hang out quite a bit,
Yeah.
right? And you're
Learn
going to
from
have
this guy.
better or worse, you're going to have a different quarterback too.
Right.
I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah. So, I don't think you open one hole to then fill it with the same position in the
Right.
draft. I don't think that makes a lot of sense because, again, the team would, if you were trading that pick, you would just draft, and you wanted a wide receiver, you would just take Ian Minor. You would just take Beck.
Yeah. I mean, you in the third round and Savania is there and you can't believe it. Why trade Isaac for that, though? I mean,
Right.
why?
Same thing.
You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. Why create a hole
You may draft him.
just to get younger?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you might draft him, but that doesn't mean you're going to flip Siamalu for a sixth.
Right.
I mean, like
That's a move that you make when you're playing Madden
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that because there's no person involved.
Mm-hmm.
There's no history with that person involved. There's no
The
experience
line
involved.
room would be
I could-
crazy young. Then,
I could take that young player and just plug it in on Madden and
Look, I got more cap space. A lot more,
his experience.
8 years younger, blah blah blah. Right, but I'm not giving up. You're not going to get a ton for Siamalu right now, anyway. I'm not even sure it's a foregone conclusion he walks after the year.
Right.
I want to take all those guys to camp, and maybe someone loses their left guard and says, "Hey, we'll give you 4 for him." Well, then maybe I'll listen.
Because I drafted a guy in the that
I've got
I
my
like.
hands on this guy, and
Yeah.
he's a Steeler, and he's been in pads, and he's been on the grass, and I know he can. I'm excited to get him on the field.
Yeah.
But I do expect a future pick to get moved, but I don't think they're going to mortgage the future like crazy because
No, I
I
don't
do
think
think
so.
quarterback's going to be in the crosshairs next year.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean they don't take one this year. They'll take a quarterback at some point this year. There will
I'm
be
sure.
a rookie quarterback on the roster coming out of minicamp.
Yeah, and it probably a draft
Going into minicamp.
Right.
And it's probably going to be somebody they drafted. I don't think it's going to be in the first round.
I don't either. I really don't. I mean, it's such rumor season, lying season. The stuff you read this morning, I think a lot of it was Schefter driven. Steelers didn't really think there was any chance Shador was going to be there 21. Now they have to reconsider.
I get it. You reconsider it, but I still don't know that he gets there.
I don't know that he gets there. And it's already been considered. He didn't
Yeah.
change in the last month. Your grade is the same on him. You either
Yeah.
liked him and
Now,
thought he's a future
the thing
star
that
or
did
not.
change is, like, for example, they didn't bring Cam Ward in for a visit.
Right.
But they did bring Shador late in
Right.
the process because maybe they looked at it and said, okay,
He's not going to be a Brown Giant at 2 or 3.
they're not going to
to
take him in the top 10. Those
Right.
two teams aren't taking him in the top 5. So now if he starts to slide and he's available to us, now what?
Right.
We got to know.
If this was last year, they wouldn't have brought in May or Daniels either,
Right.
let alone Caleb. It's like we know he's not getting to our striking
Yeah.
distance.
But it
Right.
goes back to what we talked about at the Open, where they've assessed pretty well the guys who might be available
Mm-hmm.
with that first round pick, and they brought a bunch of them in.
Mm-hmm.
And
they've also not brought a couple that are exciting. It doesn't mean they don't have any interest in Nolan,
Right.
or Grant.
Or Grant.
Right. And then probably come with a handful of other names.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And it is lying season,
Oh, big time.
but in some instances,
Things sneak out of buildings,
things-
though.
things
and
do
there are,
sneak
you
out.
know.
And it's interesting. You mentioned, we talked about how the Steelers have an idea. They have a pro personnel department, like every other team out there.
Yeah.
And those pro personnel departments at this time of year become very important because
Very.
they know what everybody else's team needs are.
Yes. I mean, the pro guys don't do a lot of draft stuff.
Right.
Like they might
They're not
cross-check
looking at
tight ends or something. They get involved here and there. But they were really busy. Their time was free agency. And all during the year. I mean, every week something happens to the teams you're responsible for. There's an injury. There's a roster move. And then there's coaching changes. But their biggest job, besides having reports on every player at this time of year, is think as the Seahawks think. Like, do you think they would, the Seahawks, I'm just pulled the Seahawks out of the blue. They need an interior O-lineman. Do you think they'd want Booker or Zabel? Well, they just changed their scheme. Zabel makes a heck of a lot more sense. So, okay, we don't mind if that guy falls. Booker probably will fall. If the Steelers were in the market for a guard, whatever. And I don't know if teams do this, but I absolutely think they should, is truly have a mock draft. Like when I was with the Browns, I was in charge of the NFC West. I always thought we should have a mock draft where I made the picks for the Rams, Niners, Seahawks, as if I were them, trying to be in their head. What would I do if I were them, and what do I predict them to do? I don't know if they do that or not, but I think they should.
Well, again, though, if you're the pro guy and you really don't know the college players,
right,
as in depth as the college scouts, you can tell. All you do is step up. Hey, here are the needs.
Here are the needs, and it's not like they need a D tackle. They're like they need a D tackle for 3rd and 8 when they're in a blitz situation. Like they go further into the needs.
And the thing about it is, pro scouting departments are actually like spies.
In a way, yeah.
Because when you're out of the game, every week, depending on where, and it doesn't really matter where you go, every stadium that you go to, you'll see a list of the media people or whoever's going to be in the press box that day. And you can look over the list, and at the end of the list, usually up in the 3rd row, there's 5 or 6 scouts from your future opponents, upcoming opponents.
Yeah. Why is there a Bears scout here for Steelers Ravens? Well,
in 2 weeks the Bears play the
and in 4 weeks they play the Ravens. There's advanced scouting. I mean, some of those pro guys are 2 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
So as soon as your game ends, they can brief. They don't get ready a game plan for you, but they brief the coaching staff of this is what they're looking to do. They got a gunner hurt yesterday. I don't know who their gunner is going to be, but it's going to be a replacement guy. A rookie corner looks like he might be inching into the lineup. Maybe you want to attack him. Boy, this blitz gave them a ton of problems. That type of stuff. Advanced scouting.
The punter holds the ball for 2.7 seconds.
Right. It's a problem. You know. And back in the day, this sounds so crazy, but there would be the league put it out, but it was an Adobe file that sometimes was like 200-300 words per day, and it was like every article all conglomerated into one. And I remember our director of pro scouting, and he'd be on the road, he'd ask one of the admins, hey, can you print that out for me? He'd leave with like this much paper, just killed 100 trees, leaf through them and find notes here and there, highlight them, like old school stuff. Like all that could be on my phone. Right. And I don't need to, I'm not going to go through every word just to find those things. But every day I read Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks, stuff like you might have written, and just say, maybe I can get something out of there.
Yeah.
And then does that translate to tape, or is this writer have no clue what he's talking about?
This guy's talking, I've been dealing with a hamstring the last couple of weeks. I'm playing through it. Well, that wouldn't necessarily show up on game day.
Or maybe even on the injury report.
Right.
But I'm like, his left leg is kind of dragging if you look at it through that light. So, I mean, it's invested to your PI.
Yeah, right. You are investigating the team. I can remember the year before the Jaguars came into the league, I've mentioned this before, Tom Coughlin was at least 6 Steeler games that year. Mm-hmm. He'd been hired a year ahead of time to be the head coach of the Jaguars before they were even in existence.
Yeah.
And he went to a bunch of Steeler games. I'm sure he went to a bunch of
He's on the Jags payroll.
Browns games. He's working. The Titans at that time were still in the division. They were the Oilers then. But I'm sure he was, he's there.
Oh, he's putting a notebook together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And could you find all this stuff out on tape? Probably. Does being in the press box with you guys that much more of an advantage to watching it on tape on Monday? Maybe not, but you do get a couple things.
The spy aspect of this is that you can watch the sideline.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
You're allowed to do that during the game.
Yeah, signals or who might be hurt or who's getting chewed out or who's on the bench with sulking in the corner or that type of thing,
Things of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, a big thing we did, I only think I traveled with the Browns once or twice. I had no reason to go on road games. I came to Pittsburgh because it was a drive and I got to stay at home the night, or whatever. But like a big thing I do in home games is they said just walk around the other team and body type them. Like, boy, it was 8 years since his combine. He looks 20 pounds heavier than what he looked at his combine. In our files, he's 310. That dude's not 310. Like that type of thing. Just body type him, write your notes, put them in our system just to add. Like, all right, walk around and kind of see who's intermingling with who. I remember we played the Ravens, and there was like, I forget exactly who it was, but Jonathan Ogden was inactive, and there was like him and 4 future Hall of Famers just kind of in their own little. It was like the cool circle. It was like him, and I think Woodson was on the team, Lewis, Reed, and Joe Blow punter was no way was walking in that group.
Yeah.
They were just kind of chilling by themselves. I'm like, I'm gonna at least walk past them and see what they're up to.
I bring this up because SI today, SI.com, put together a list of. They went out and talked to scouts from other teams, pro personnel departments, to list the needs of each team.
Oh, okay. Which is exactly where you want to get it. Real quick, I want to make one more note, too. Like, when you're mocking it up or you're drafting, man, I hope that guy gets to me, but the Ravens are in front of us and they need the same position. The Ravens are a bad example because the division so well that everybody in the building's like, that's a Raven or it's not. So we have to get ahead of them. But, like, they might call you in and be like, do you think Seattle will take this nose or this 3 technique? Do you think we have to move up 3 or 4 spots to get our guy? Nah, that's not their style,
Which brings me to I wanted to talk about this. So we're going to go look at the Steelers' needs we know. And you can put them in whatever order you want. Quarterback, running back, defensive tackle. Cornerback would be would be further down the list to me. It would be a nice
It might be my 4th, but
it'd be a nice thing to add. But,
yeah. It gives. I haven't looked at this article, but it does give it some credence that they put D tackle amongst the list. But the teams or the writers out there or the experts that never mention D tackle as a need, they don't know this team very well.
I see 7-round mock drafts that have them taking no defensive tackles. Right. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Or maybe in the 6th round they took a flyer on this guy from Saginaw State. Blah blah blah. I'm like, that ain't going to cut it.
So if you start looking then at the teams after them. For the Chargers, defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, running back, edge.
It's not hard to find needs for them.
Yeah. For the Packers, cornerback, offensive tackle, edge, defensive tackle.
Okay. Like a lot of people even put receiver there, which is a bit of a stretch. I mean, you can win with those receivers.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of receivers. Like maybe they don't have a number 1, which is what the
and Watson's banged up, and right, I know.
For the Vikings. Guard,
there's one guard spot that's still kind of shaky. Yeah,
defensive tackle, safety, cornerback,
and the D tackles they signed are older.
Yeah,
I mean, so
but safety and corner, like both
secondary
needs
strong.
Huge. For the Texans, offensive tackle, guard, wide receiver. They have 3 definitive needs,
and because of the Tunsil trade, they can address them all. Yeah, they're kind of the opposite situation the Steelers of. How does this work best? Is it best to go tackle and then wait for the receiver, or probably going to wait on an interior guy? But they created needs by trading Tunsil, and they decided to revamp their entire O-line room, which is hard to do.
For the Rams, it's cornerback, inside linebacker, quarterback.
I agree with that. I don't know if they'll do anything about inside linebacker. They ignore that position to no end. But doesn't mean it's not a need.
For the Ravens, it's edge, safety, and guard.
I'm glad they guard. A lot of people don't. We talk about this all the time. Like, how could you be happy with that pair of guards? The offense was great with them.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's the great idea.
For the Lions, it is, we're picking at 28, edge, defensive tackle, and guard.
Losing Zeitler, they're kind of going to piece that spot together. Yeah. I don't know if they'll be happy with it.
For Washington at 29, it's edge, offensive line, safety, wide receiver.
Okay. You could probably wait a year on receiver, but I wouldn't wait too long.
Yeah.
They did draft McCaffrey last year.
For the Bills, it's cornerback, edge, defensive tackle.
Okay. I'd throw safety in there. I'm not sure edge is at the top of the list. They do Verso.
For Kansas City, it is offensive tackle, guard cornerback.
Yeah, but if I kind of feel like one O lineman would do the trick. But I don't know how married they are to Taylor. I mean, I know that they signed more.
I can't imagine they're very married to Taylor.
Right. Shouldn't be. They're in a predicament with their tackles.
For the Eagles, it is edge, wide receiver, and offensive line.
Okay. I mean, wide receiver, I have heard some things. It's going to be hard to keep Smith and Brown long term.
Yeah.
I don't know what they think of Dotson. I assume his 5th year is coming up soon, and they won't pick it up.
His 5th year option, I think, is this year.
Is it this year? There's no way they'll pick it up.
No.
You know, and Goddard could be on the move. Maybe just another pass catcher in general.
So if we look at these needs
Mm-hmm.
in the order that they're placed here, if you are the Kansas City Chiefs picking at 31,
Yeah.
are you going to get an offensive lineman, a tackle or guard at 31?
Well, I kind of had a feeling you were going to go down this road. A lot of teams said edge, even these playoff teams. If there's a run, which I think there could be, in 1 to 20, could 5 edge guys go off the board? And then all of a sudden it's like, man, we thought Pierce was a surefire guy to be for the Lions. Do we have to move up to get him?
That's another one.
And I think tackle, to your point, is always thin.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if Connerly or Simmons goes off the board.
I think Simmons is the wild card.
Me too.
In this whole thing. Because if he were clean right now, I think he's a top 10 pick.
Oh, I do too. There's been some character stuff thrown out there. Not like he's a bad guy, but
does he love football?
Does he love football? He's a little young. It's so typical for some of these big guys that are so talented. That's come a little easier for them, because they're 6'6", 330, whether they're a D tackle or tackle that just can throw people around without technique.
But if I'm the Chiefs,
I'll give you a lot for Simmons,
and I've got 2 picks in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get up using those picks with the Steelers, for example?
Yeah, right.
Because I want to get ahead of Houston. I want to get ahead of Baltimore that has these needs.
100%.
That's certainly something I would be keeping an eye on.
Yeah. I think
for
a
the
run
Buffalo
of
Bills, for example, mentioned cornerback and edge being 2 of their biggest needs, their top 2 needs, according to what pro football people are saying. Let's say Will Johnson is still there at 21.
Right.
Do I want to go up and get Will Johnson?
Yes.
I'd seriously think about it.
Yes. I mean, do you really want to trust? I mean, Ravel or Benjamin, if you're them. I'm needing to win now. They may even be better prospects than Johnson if clean. I don't think they are, but they're close. But I can't wait. I'm here to win it. I'm not the Giants or a team like that.
Yeah. Or again, the edge run that you just talked about.
Right. I mean, I think it would behoove the Steelers, and this is neat, but for 2 reasons. As many tackles and edges that can go off the board, the better. Because then it's going to create a shortage for the next ones. Plus, the positions you want aren't getting touched as much.
The Commanders are in the same boat. Edge and offensive line.
Yeah.
Listed as their top 2 needs. Well,
I hear
we want to go get it. Now, edge is a deeper position throughout this draft.
But no tackle, sure.
Offensive tackle is not.
Right. And I was kind of say the same thing. But I was listening to McShay's latest podcast, and this one was all about stuff he's been hearing, And he'll be the first to tell you, I'm sure there's some lies and blah, blah, blah. But he's pretty dialed in. He's been doing this 25 years. I think we got hired together. And he basically said, so many teams have told me Joe Thuney. I'm like, well, I'm sitting there thinking, he's like, well, none of you know what that means. But he's like, what a great guard. Maybe a Hall of Fame guard. But you watch the Super Bowl, I want Michael Williams, not Thuney playing tackle.
Yeah.
With arms an inch too short and wingspan 2 inches too short.
Just trying to get by.
I want to be the hammer, not the nail here. I want to be the Eagle side of that thing. So give me Walker, Williams, Pierce, whoever, and I'll figure it out on O-line. I mean, there's not many prototypical tackles. I don't want Thuney. I want Sweat.
Yeah, but if I'm a team and I want one of those tackles, I want Simmons, or I see, he's gone, and now all of a sudden I'm looking at, is Connerly going to get past the Texans? I don't know.
Connerly's rarely off the board in mocks by 21. I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, he could get a little stronger, but there's a lot of ability there. Like Houston really comes to mind. It's like, well, you moved on from Tunsil, but you signed Cam Robinson, who's an NFL tackle, but he's not the answer.
Right.
But I can wait a while with Connerly, and I don't
Maybe
need
I
to
play
plug and play
Connerly
him.
at guard for a year while he gets stronger.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, the Ravens did that with Jonathan Ogden his rookie year. He
Right.
played guard at 6'9". Or the Chiefs do have the right tackle that they probably don't love, but he's going to be the right tackle this year.
They signed the left tackle
And they signed the
to
left
too much
tackle.
money, but he's a journeyman.
But I'd love to have Connerly there.
Yeah.
In the mix.
And they still
for
need a
this year
guard.
or next. Right.
So I'm saying one of these teams that really has an offensive line need, I could see them wanting to get up to 21 to get ahead of the Packers, who could take an offensive line. Houston, who could take an offensive line.
Houston would scare the heck out of me, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Do you think the only team that you meant that post Steelers, I mean, they're all playoff teams, do you think the Rams would go get Dart or Shador? I don't think that's how they're wired.
I don't think they're going to trade up to that because they don't have a second-round pick.
And they just gave
I think
Stafford a lot of money.
If it just worked out that way, they would be fine doing
They
it.
might consider it. Like they might take him over the Kentucky corner if they're both sitting there when the Rams are truly on the clock. But you can trade a bunch of future stuff for a guy that's sitting around. And if I'm Stafford, I don't love that. We just talked about trying to win this thing. I'm coming back. You just gave me money, and you don't have a second-round pick, and the first position you're going to help me with is the third round. That doesn't really do it for me.
No, me either. So
they had a good run. I mean, they almost beat the Super Bowl champs in the playoffs.
Right. But, that was from Albert Breer's team needs that he talked to a bunch of pro personnel guys about. And, it got my mind thinking there.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Someone on Twitter took the time they only tagged me and I mentioned you after that. Like he laid out, here's 7 or 8 teams that could trade up with the Steelers for this position, and he even put the compensation in there. Some of the compensation was a little light. I looked at it, but they took their time to do it. It was pretty cool, and they actually thought, even mentioned like Browns, Giants for a quarterback, like into the second round, Chiefs for a tackle, on and on. And when you see it on paper and there's 7 or 8 possibilities, they're like, there's a pretty good chance one of these could come to fruition.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, let's get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, I think one of the biggest questions surrounding the Steelers heading into this draft is the Shador Sanders question.
Yeah, and there's really is 2 sides. I know where we both land in the end, but I understand both sides wholeheartedly.
Would you take him if he's still available? And I have to tell people every time, what depends on who else is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, if all the defensive linemen are swept off the board, then yes, I would take him. If they're not, then the answer is no.
And we're getting down to the wire. I don't even know if we'll get around to it, but if we were to redo our 21, or you do a 21, I do a 21. We'll do that
later in the week.
He's probably in it.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think Milroe would be in it for me. I don't think Dart would be. Just because I'm not taking an edge. I'm not taking a tackle. But the 21's a great exercise, but you're never going to get to 21.
Never.
I mean, he
never.
might be, if you never get to 19, you're never going to get to 18. Will Campbell's going to go. Membo's going to go. Mason Graham is going to go. I mean, guys that might not even be in our radar. Walker is definitely going to go. There's no chance he's in my 21.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe the tight ends, So for him to be the top player on my board, it seems really unlikely.
There's probably going to be at least 10 guys that are gone.
Yeah.
Maybe not 10, but
Yeah. But I could see why he'd be the top player on their board if they think he's a franchise quarterback. That trumps all, but I have reservations. But they've studied him more than me. There's no way I could pass on Grant, Harmon, or Nolan for him, though.
Yeah. I just...
Right.
I
also, real quick, if they do trade down and get more draft day 2 capital, I'd be much more likely to take a tier 2 or 3 quarterback as opposed to McCord in the 5th or
Yeah.
something like that. You know,
That's a different
story.
a different conversation.
Considering
and
the resources.
Kind of what I told somebody when they asked me that on our YouTube channel. Like, what would you, or would you be in on taking the quarterback in the first round? I need to know if I've gotten back into the second round.
Yeah, again,
because that changes the dynamic.
I guess a better way to
starting
phrase
my
the
defensive
question.
line, starting to draft defensive linemen, even in a deep draft in the third round, when I also need to draft a running back.
You're light there.
Now I'm starting to get light, and I need these guys to come in and be able to contribute
right
on a regular basis right away.
And I'm sure you could find some big old heavy set nose tackle to get you through the year. You know, it's a veteran, that's a professional. Fine, but that's not really what I wanted to address.
It's not the long-term answer.
When there's 10 noses in this draft I love.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I'd much rather have Caldwell or somebody like that I can have for a long time.
Cheap.
Yeah, cheap. Let alone you're definitely out on Nolan, Harmon, Alexander. I mean, all the difference-making end types. I mean, there's no chance. So we talk about this a lot, or at least I throw it out there. Like, if Robin Williams comes out of the genie comes out and says, doo-doo-doo, I'll give you Shedeur Sanders for 21 today on the 21st of April. I'm saying no. But after 20 picks on Thursday night, I might say yes.
I might say yes.
Yes.
That's what kind of my. I don't know how the first round is going to go.
Right.
Because quite frankly, again, after you get through those first 3 or 4 picks,
it's a mess.
There's not a lot of difference between pick number 5 or 6 or 7 and pick number 40.
Right.
There just isn't.
There isn't. I mean,
let alone 50 or 60, which might also be the case.
Terrible year to pick 4, 5, 6. You know, I mean, you want to get Marvin Harrison Jr. or Neighbors or Alt. I mean, you're not getting that guy.
And it doesn't mean these guys won't be good players.
They're just not as good of prospects.
They're just not, wow, that guy's going to be a future Pro Bowler.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be starters. They're going to be guys who, maybe some of them will develop into Pro Bowl type players.
Hit. We don't have a crystal ball. I mean, Robin Williams isn't telling us, exactly how it's going to go.
Not telling anybody anything right now.
Right. But no, I would not trade 21 for Sanders or Milroe for that matter. And everyone knows I love Milroe. Not right now. I'd rather, even if the wrong 20 fell off the board, I still would want to use every second of my 15 minutes to see if I get a call.
Yeah.
I'd rather let it play out. I'm not taking door number 1 on that.
And those are the conversations that are happening right now.
Absolutely.
This week.
Mm-hmm.
This is, such and such team is talking about moving back. Well, every team in the league is making calls.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you willing to move back? You want to move up? What are you looking to do in this draft?
I referenced McShay's podcast. I listened to it this morning. And again, he's been doing it a long time. He said, I've never seen such late quarterback stuff. And I'll explain that in a minute, that I have this year. And he said the Browns, Giants, Saints. And he said, not Steelers. He even said that. He said, Steelers seem pretty set in what they think of these guys. Are flying all over the country. They're shipping in everyone they possibly can. The entire organization's going to Boulder or Mississippi or whatever, that they are doing more and more work than he can ever imagine with these top couple quarterbacks, like from Milroe or better. Milroe, Shuck, Dart.
Well, I was
Sanders,
listening to Sirius this morning, Sirius NFL, and I can't remember.
Which means they're not taking him at 2 or 3.
Right.
But how much do I like him?
But I'm listening, and they had the former Patriots cornerback on. I can't remember who it was.
It's not Ty Law, right?
No. It's
they've had a lot of cornerbacks.
Yeah. Anyways, he's on the show, and he's talking about how the Giants. If I'm the Giants ownership, I don't trust this head coach and GM to draft my next quarterback. And I'm like, well, if that's the case,
you should have fired them.
You should have fired them.
Right. Then what do you?
He's like, they may only have a year left. Well, if that's the case, then you should have fired them then. If you don't trust this group,
then blame ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only one person to blame if that's the truth.
Right.
Right. No, that makes no sense to me at all.
So, to me,
maybe they will screw it up.
Maybe, but
a lot of teams do.
If that's the case, then you should have fired them.
Yeah, absolutely, especially the GM.
Right.
I mean,
you don't
the
trust
coach
him.
Might help you on game
I don't
day,
trust him
right.
to do this draft. And what are you doing?
I mean, why is he in the building?
Yeah.
Right.
That just drove me crazy. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right. I mean, I'm not saying the ownership should trust him, but they must, Or they would have fired them.
You would have fired them.
Right.
You're not going to give them another year and say, well, we're going to give you one more year, and then we're going to fire you at the end of the year. But we're going to sit through this
after
draft.
you screw up the quarterback thing first.
After you screw up another draft.
That'd be great, yeah.
That makes no sense.
That makes no sense at all. No, that's not the way they see it.
No.
Doesn't mean it's going to work out.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not the way they see it.
Yeah, it's just going to be such a fascinating draft. I can't remember a draft that I've covered that's been quite like this one.
Me either.
Where it's just been so – again, there's great depth.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 300-plus players that have draftable grades on them.
Again, that was a big thing Todd was saying. He said, he's saying, I just think teams are just going to take the edge rusher, and then we'll figure out the other stuff later. Because I don't want to be – I'm going to be pretty safe with a position of need that's a talented player that's not a super blue-chip dude. He's even talking about the Patriots. Like, they might just take Walker if they love him. I don't love Walker, but it's better than – is he a right tackle? Is he a left tackle? Is he a guard? Taking Ted McMillan in the top 10, being like, is he only Michael Pittman?
Right.
Like, that's fine, but it's not what I'm looking for.
You're going to get starters. You're going to get starters into the 4th and 5th rounds in this draft, but are they difference makers?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the question the teams are going to have to ask themselves. And it really stands out at the quarterback position.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's safe to say, okay, there's only 3 blue chip dudes. At 2 and 3, we're getting one of them. But how far are we willing to go to get Shador, Dart, whoever? Are we willing to give up next year's first and an early second?
I think that's foolish.
I hope someone is.
Right.
Right. I mean, to get all the way to 8 or 9 to be in front of the Saints, or
trade up in front of the Steelers to get one of those quarterbacks, have at it.
Right. Or, hey, you can have 21 for that price. Right. I don't know. I guess everyone's getting different pressure from ownership, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But let's get to another break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 of The Drive right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, except no imitations. And it is time to mock draft here a little bit. We're going to use the Pro Football Focus. We've only got, 3 opportunities to mock draft remaining.
It's true.
Today,
we've
tomorrow,
done plenty,
Wednesday. Thursday, we will do a mock draft with Mike Pursuta where we'll rotate picks throughout.
Live. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And check that out on Steelers.com.
So, folks, how that works is if Dale gets 1, I get 2, and Mike gets 3, then Dale gets 4, then, we just keep going, and we pick as those guys. We don't consult to be like, what do you guys think? Let's settle up. No, you're on your own.
You're on your own, and you got to react to how everybody else picked, which makes it interesting. All right, so we're using the Pro Football Focus mock drafter today, and the Steelers are up at 21. The top players available: Omarion Hampton, Tyleik Williams,
I like
Derek Harmon, Shador Sanders.
Wow, Grant and Nolan are gone.
Yes,
these mock drafts and mock draft simulators seem to have at least one of the 3 defensive tackles going consistently, and I don't think it's that rare for 2 to be gone.
No, I don't think so either. It gets a little scary. Now, we do have 4 trade offers.
Okay.
The highest one being from the Houston Texans, who I assume want to come up and get an offensive lineman here.
Okay.
At 25.
Real quick, and I wonder if you agree or not. Like, trading down's fine, but I either want to not go real far and hopefully get Harmon,
or I'm going to go down and I'm going to settle for Tyleik Williams.
Right. Or Alexander, and I'm going to have a lot of stuff, and maybe a future pick or whatever. And both are not bad builds.
I don't see them trading out of the first round.
You mentioned that Friday. I mean, it's not what they do.
It's never done.
Right.
I think in this instance, with those, and I just set that up to look at defensive tackle, running back, and quarterback.
Okay,
some of the other guys available: Malachi Starks.
I'm sure there's good players, but I can't
Luther
imagine.
Burden, Colston Loveland, Kelvin Banks, who I think maybe that's who Houston wants to come up and get.
That would make sense, sure.
Gray Zabel is there. So there are some guys, and even Trey Amos is still there. Josh Connerly is still there.
I'm usually not a fan of taking this approach, but I'm trying to make it as realistic as possible. If Houston was on the phone, okay, give us a little something. We're not going to get as much from you to go back to the other spot. But if Harmon were to fall between then I'm really open for business.
Yeah, now I might move back.
And then might double down even further and make 2 trade downs.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still want the first pick to be a D lineman.
Right. So do we move back or not?
Let's try it. I mean, how many? Where are they at again?
They're at 25.
Okay, so there's 2 players are gonna fall.
Yeah.
And they're not going to take Harmon.
I'm not going to ask for 58 because I don't.
They won't.
They're not going to do 58, but they do have 79 from Miami.
That's enough for me to roll the dice on that.
Yeah, and according to this, there's a 52% chance that would be accepted. So it would be 25 and 79 for 21.
Okay, and then you hope Harmon doesn't fall, or see how it goes.
And if that happens, and if we want then to trade up from 79 or even 83.
Mm-hmm. Now we put a package together.
Now we can put a package together and move up into that second round.
Yeah.
Without giving up all that much.
No, don't think you have to give next year's first or second.
No, right. Probably
okay.
a 4, I think.
4, or next year 3. I don't know.
If we wanted to go up, say, 10 spots.
Well, let's see who these 2 picks are.
All right. I'm going to offer the trade first. They didn't accept that.
Throw in our 7th or something?
I'll throw in 7. But they got to give me their 7. Because I want 7 picks in the draft. They accepted that. Right, so it ended up being 21 and 229 for 25, 79, and 236.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. All right. We're going to resume the draft here. And they came up to get Luther Burden.
Well, that would be a need, too.
Yeah.
We assumed O-line, but Burden would be a nice compliment to Collins.
Sure. Then Malachi Starks went.
Great.
Then Colston Loveland. Then Shamar Stewart. So
we were only going 2 spots down.
We went from 21 to 25.
Oh, for some reason I was okay.
3 spots
I was being dumb. Yeah.
All right.
Good.
We have 8 trade offers now. The Lions being up at 28, being the next closest one. But everything else is outside the first round. Harmon is still there. I think you just take Harmon.
Mm-hmm. We're at 26.
We're 25.
25. Yeah. We accomplished what we wanted to do.
We got the pick back.
Yeah. And still got our guy. That's the way this works. No reason to flirt with disaster twice.
All right, I'm going to pause here at 53.
Do you agree, though, if Harmon would have went 24, I'm open for business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're up here at 53. Tampa Bay is on the clock. And I'm just looking here at the running backs have been largely untouched, except Scatabo just went.
I'm not trading up for Scatabo.
That doesn't move the needle for me, but everybody else is still on the board at 53.
Good. You gonna let it roll to 60ish or so?
Okay, I'm gonna let it roll here because our next pick is at 79, so we've got 26 picks here to go. They're going to start coming off the board.
Yeah, soon. I know.
All right, we are now we're at 64. Dylan Sampson just went. Travion Henderson is gone. Caleb Johnson is gone.
There was a run.
There was a run.
Okay.
But it looks like
Judkins available.
Judkins is still there. Would you trade up with the Eagles here at 64 to go get Judkins?
As a rule of thumb, I'm not thrilled in a running back heavy draft to trade up for a running back. But there was just a run. We picked up an extra pick. He would get a lot of usage in the Steelers uniform this year. I would kick the tires. I mean,
see what it would take to get up to 64.
One of those thirds. I bet one of those thirds and next year's third isn't going to get it done.
79 and next year's 4th round pick has a 46% chance to be accepted for this pick.
Wow. Worth a shot. I mean,
I'm going to offer it.
Yeah. I would do a third. I'd do 2 threes.
They did not accept that.
How about that in next year's third?
Man, I hate giving up next year's third. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to go down to pick 83 or second.
Okay, yeah.
If I'm going to give up next year's third,
give up the later.
100% chance that will be accepted. So they got to give me a little kicker here.
Yeah, could we turn our 7th into a 5th this year? Something like that.
236. They got 168 as their last pick. They will definitely do that.
So spell it out to me again. I know we're giving up next year's third.
We would be giving up next year's third, which is our third next year.
Yeah,
we're going to get the compensatory for 83. Or I'm sorry, next year's third and 83 for 64 and 168.
So Judkins, we still have a pick in the 3rd round. We have the Texans, or our pick.
We got the Texans, the pick we got from the Texans, which was actually Miami's pick at 79. So we would have 64, 79, and then 123. We'd also be moving up from the 7th round to the 5th round this year.
123 is pretty useful.
Right.
Let's do it.
They're saying this is 100% going to be. We could
maybe we could ask for more.
We could probably get more. Throw me in a 7 next year. How about they got 2 5s next year.
Yeah.
They get Houston's 5 and their 5. I'd rather have Houston's 5.
Who are we talking to again?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'd rather have Houston's 5.
All right. I'm going to offer to trade. They're going to accept it. Yep. We're okay. So we are in this spot
for Judkins, right? When we did it for that reason.
Yes.
Do it.
All right. We moved up to get Judkins. Now we have another pick at 79. Did any other running backs go in between there? Well, guess who did go? Jalen Milroe went in between there, but such is life. No other running backs went in between there. That doesn't mean none would have gone.
I'm not saying we're not going to draft a quarterback, but I'm kind of looking at quarterback as next year's first-round pick at this point.
Yeah. Now,
with those two picks.
Tyler Shuck is still there.
Okay, that's not crazy. I'd consider it. Again, I'm a fan of the player. His timeline's just going to be a little rough.
It's going to be rough.
I mean, no matter where he lands, it's a little rough. But most teams don't have a 2 already in place. That he had. Could he beat out Rudolph? I don't know. I mean, I guess you'd want him to.
Right.
Let's ignore it, though. Well, I don't know. Let's consider it. Maybe who else is on the board? Is there
Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State?
He would be helpful. Yeah.
Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas.
Good player, but I'm not.
Kyle Williams, wide receiver from Washington State.
Which receiver did you take of those two? They're really different, but I think I'd go Williams.
I probably would too, but I could understand
either would be cool.
The argument for Royals too.
Right.
R.J. Harvey, running back at UCF, is there. We're done there.
Yeah.
Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU.
Good player. Shocked he's there.
Oladejo, the edge rusher out of UCLA. Damian Martinez. He's kind of risen up
as he should.
Late. Ozzie Trapillo, the tackle out of Boston College. Chris Paul Jr., linebacker from Mississippi. Marcus Mbao, tackle from Purdue.
Could be your left guard
next year.
Cross-train him at tackle.
Jonas Ivania, also still there.
I like him more and more.
Terrence Ferguson, the tight end out of Oregon.
I'm a Ferguson fan too. But
Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia. He's really athletic.
He is. I think he might be center only, though.
Yeah, that's a problem. Latham Ransom, the safety out of Ohio State. Vernon Broughton, defensive lineman from Texas.
There has to be some noses.
Wyatt Millam, the tackle out of West Virginia, who's a guard.
He'd probably be a guard.
Cameron Williams, tackle out of Texas. Jordan Phillips is the top-rated nose tackle.
What if they took Millam and put him next to Frazier? West would just lose his mind.
Oh, my God. It'd be really nasty, too.
It wouldn't be a bad pairing.
Yeah.
West would lose his marbles. So I would consider...
They have Jordan Phillips rated ahead of Jamari Caldwell, and I think I would have that flip-flopped.
Caldwell's definitely more pass rush.
Caldwell gives you more as a pass rusher. Phillips...
We already have Harmon, too.
I like.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he's ever going to give you anything as a pass rusher.
Just for the shuck of it, let's ignore Shuck.
Okay.
And I would consider Williams, Savania, or Millam, whatever you like there as a tackle/guard convert, or Caldwell.
Not Mbao.
He'd be fine too.
Yeah. In that situation,
when do we pick again?
We're at 123.
And this is what?
79.
Oh, wow.
We got a little bit of a wait.
Yeah.
But we're going to be taking, if we go the offensive line route, we're taking a guy who presumably is going to start for us next year.
All three of those guys, I think I'm taking tackle and guard reps at camp. Pretty fond of the receivers, though.
That's a secondary need, though, for what we have this year. Like how much is a rookie receiver really going to help you this year? You got Roman Wilson coming back. That's your bonus prize.
I know. And I might just be happy with Yaya Black in the 5th or 6th or something like that. Let's take whatever lineman you like best.
Let's take Savania. We haven't taken him.
I like it.
And, I mean,
he moves well.
Yeah.
For a huge human being.
6'5", 336. He's just 21 years old, which I like.
He's a puppy, too. That's a good point.
Which is, different from, for example, Millam
I think he's a 6-year
23. He'll be 24 during the season this year. So I'm getting 3 extra years.
Yeah.
Out of Saivania. Mabau, he just turned 22.
Okay.
But
I like Salvania.
Saivania is the puppy of them.
I also don't know that he can't stay at tackle.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, right.
He might be able to move out there in a pinch.
Both those for you.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Saivania it is.
Okay. That's a nice pickup.
Okay. Moving down to 123. What we have remaining is 123, 156, 168, 185, and 236.
There's 5 more picks.
We got 5. Yeah. We are up now at in the 123. Top players: R.J. Mickens, a safety out of Clemson; Danny Stutzman, the linebacker out of Oklahoma; Isaac Tesla, wide receiver out of Arkansas.
I'd be fine with that.
We got Billy Bowman, the safety out of Oklahoma; Benjamin Urisic, the tight end from Georgia; Ty Robinson, defensive lineman from Nebraska; Sebastian Castro, safety out of Iowa; Mello Dotson, the cornerback out of Kansas; Riley Leonard, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself there. Riley Leonard, the quarterback out of Notre Dame; Miles Frazier, guard out of LSU; Cameron Jackson, defensive tackle from Florida.
Okay.
Tyler Shuck is still there.
I think that's cheating.
Okay. Justin Wally.
Wally's interesting. There were
I just want to take a look here at the defensive.
2 receivers, I think. The nose from Florida.
I think I would go nose here, to be honest with you.
Seems like there's not, as deep as it is, it sounds like a lot of them have gone.
A lot of them have been taken off the chessboard here.
Let's do it. And we have 4 more picks for bonus prizes, best available type guys.
Yeah.
Get the nose done.
You want Ty Robinson or Cameron Jackson?
I think Robinson's a clearly better prospect, but I want a nose.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to draft for need there a little bit.
Yeah. Now, he has played the nose, but he's not a true nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas Cameron Jackson.
That's
he's
where
a true nose.
That's where he's lining up. Let's do that.
All right, Cameron Jackson it is from Florida.
He's drafted 2 huge people.
All right. We are now up at 156. Top players available. A lot of the same guys. R.J. Mickens, safety out of Clemson. Ty Robinson, defensive lineman from Nebraska.
Could we do 3? We're going to have 8 picks in this draft.
Yeah. Miles Frazier, the guard from LSU. Jalen Reed, the safety from Penn State. Justin Wally.
Wally would be interesting.
Cornerback from Minnesota. Dylan Fairchild, the guard from Georgia.
We kind of did guard, but another lineman would not break my heart.
Ty Felton, the wide receiver out of Maryland, is there.
I like him too.
Yeah. Your quarterback guys that you're looking at this spot: Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, Curtis Rourke.
I would say Wally or McCord.
I just want to see what else is there at cornerback. Let's just take Wally Balalkone from Western Michigan. Quincy.
I just kind of got turned onto him. He's pretty high in the beast, and he's a tester.
Athletic.
Yeah, he's a tester. Small school, obviously.
A little grabby.
Yeah.
A lot of penalties, but
he's worth this pick.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd probably
traits.
take Wally over him, but he's worth this pick.
Yeah, Quincy Riley is still there as well.
Okay,
he's a little bit of an older prospect. I think. What is he?
When's our next pick?
He turns 24 in a month. Wally, on the other hand, is I don't even have his age listed, so I have no idea how old Wally is. But I can see here from his.
Do we have a long wait to our next pick?
Not a super long wait. No, we have a.
Because you just listed 3 or 4 corners that would all fit the bill. If
this is pick 156, we're back at 168.
I bet one of the corners fall.
Yeah, I think so. O'Donnell Fortune is there. Corey Black from Oklahoma State is there. Zaw Frazier's still there. There's dudes. Jalen Smith is still there.
Let's pencil in a corner for the next pick.
Okay. You want to take quarterback here then?
Quarterback or was Tesla still there?
I don't believe he was, no.
I couldn't remember what best
You're looking
receiver.
At Ty Felton, Kanata Mumfield from Pitt, Jalen Lane from Virginia Tech, Dante Thornton from Tennessee.
I like Lane and Thornton, but I'd probably just take the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do for you.
You're right.
Quarterback?
I think there's a chance McCord turns into a starter at some point in his career.
At the very least, he's going to be a backup for you.
Yeah.
For a long time. He could be a 10-year backup in the NFL.
I'm fine with that.
Kyle McCord it is. All right, we're back up here, and
I would strongly
Justin
think
Wally is still there.
I'd do it.
Boom.
Good. That worked out.
Done. Now we're up at 185. We got 2 picks left. Top players, Jalen Reed, the safety out of Penn State. Jordan Hancock, the safety out of Ohio State.
Highly slot capable, good athletes.
Yeah.
We just took a D-back, but I wouldn't have a problem with that. He'd find somewhere to be used in the next couple of years.
Smail Mondin, the linebacker from Georgia. Craig Woodson, the safety from Cal.
I like him too.
Bilal Kone from Western Michigan.
He's a little different than Wally. But
He is. Kanata Mumfield, the wide receiver from Pitt. Andrew Armstrong, the wide receiver from Arkansas. Jalen Travis, the offensive tackle from Iowa State. Caleb Rogers, tackle from Texas Tech.
He's not a bad player either. Texas, I mean, he's a tackle or guard.
Yeah.
There'll be 2 of those.
Jared Harrison Hunt, the defensive lineman from SMU.
Athletic.
Marcus Harris, defensive lineman from Auburn. Just looking. Jackson Haas, still there. Tight end from Georgia Tech.
Who are you looking at? I like some of the D-back value.
I like Jackson Haas a lot.
Yeah, right.
Colin Oliver, the edge rusher out of Oklahoma State. I like him too.
You don't do that route, but it's not a bad call.
Had 7 sacks 2 years ago. Missed some time this year, but 6'2", 240. So, I'm kind of planning ahead there.
Yeah, right. You never can have too many. You kind of go off the board with the tight end or the edge?
We got the extra pick back.
Yeah.
That was the key there. So we got a pick that we can use on one of those players, one of those kind of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to ask yourself, which one has the best path to playing time?
Well, the edge
as
does
a special teams
teamer,
guy. Yeah.
No question.
Can Jackson Haas be a special teams guy? I think he could.
Yeah, but he's probably like the up back on the kickoff team, or he's on field goal unit.
Yeah.
I mean, like things that aren't hard to find.
Yeah.
He's not tackling anybody.
He is nasty, though.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take Colin Oliver?
Okay.
Haven't done that, but he is really super
a deep
athletic.
edge class, you got an extra pick, throw one in the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get hit hard
And
with
he beat out
injuries.
Jeremiah Moon.
Right.
And maybe be Herbig next year if Herbig leaves.
Yeah. Just develop them.
Yeah. All right. We're now up at 236. Top players available. Jalen Reed is still there. Safety out of Penn State. Jalen Travis, the tackle from Iowa State. Caleb Rogers, tackle from Texas Tech. Jared Harrison Hunt, the defensive lineman from SMU, still there.
I'd still consider Rogers.
You got Marcus Harris, the defensive lineman from Auburn. Bryce Calabdu, the offensive tackle from Kansas. Corey Black, cornerback from Oklahoma State. Zaw Frazier, still there. Maxon Hook, the safety out of Toledo. We got Nico Reed, cornerback from Oregon. Rayon Lane, safety from Navy. He's an athletic young man.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing who else sticks out here. Jonquavius Marks, the running back from USC. Catches the ball really well.
Kind of leaning towards Rogers.
LaQuint Allen,
Good player.
running back from Syracuse.
If Rogers or Savania can be a tackle, that would be wonderful. If not, they're both going to be guard capable. I think I'd go with another alignment.
Okay. You want to take Caleb Rogers over Jalen Travis?
How tall is he?
Caleb Rogers is, he gave up 15 sacks in 2022.
Did he?
6'5", 310. He's also 23 and a half.
Is he?
A little older.
He is.
55 career starts.
I know, what's his face? Thorne's big on him. Yeah, grab him.
All right. Caleb Rogers, it is.
We got one more?
No, we're done.
Okay, that's a wrap.
We are done. So, what we came out of this with, after moving back with the Houston Texans, and then also we get the trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. So at 25, that was in the second round. We got Derek Harmon at pick 25. We also swapped a third rounder next year for a fifth rounder next year with the Eagles to get back into the second round.
So we lost a little future draft capital.
Not much, but a
Not
little.
a lot.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to be loaded with
to come up and get
picks.
Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah.
At 64. At 79, we got Jonas Iavania.
Mm-hmm.
the offensive lineman out of Arizona. At 123, we got Cameron Jackson, the defensive nose tackle out of Florida. At 156, we got Kyle McCord, quarterback from Syracuse. At 168, we got Justin Wally, the cornerback from Minnesota. At 185, we got edge rusher Colin Oliver out of Oklahoma State. And with 236, we got Caleb Rogers, offensive tackle from Texas Tech.
Tackle line of scrimmage. Two linemen on both sides of the ball. Didn't go with the receiver. Threw a corner in the mix.
We still have the same number of picks that we had for next year.
For next year, yeah. But it's not a third.
Now we're probably going to have 5 or 3 fifth-round picks, which, okay.
Yeah. I'm cool with that draft. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. I'm cool with it, though.
Okay.
Got Harmon. That's big.
Got Harmon. Got Judkins.
Yeah. I mean, those two
play a lot.
Those two are going to play a lot.
They're going to play a lot. Jackson probably ends up playing.
Yeah, I would think he's active every game.
35% of the defensive snaps.
And Savania might be a starter, or should be a starter.
Yeah.
A year from now. I'm in.
Okay. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. That was our latest mock draft on Pro Football Focus. We will be back with more right after this. Welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, Daniel Jeremiah on NFL.com has just updated his top 150 list.
Oh, 150. Wow.
Yeah.
I assume this is final in the books. Set it in stone. Huh?
Yeah. He has moved Travis Hunter up to his number 1 overall player.
He would be mine, too.
Bumped Abdul Carter down. I think the injury stuff with him is a concern there. Ashton Genty stays at 3. Mason Graham stays at 4. I'm just going to mention the big movers here. We know who the players are at this point.
Right.
He still has Cam Ward at 8. He's bumped Armand Membo up 3 spots to 9, the offensive tackle out of Missouri.
Understandable.
Jahdae Barron moves up to 10.
Wow.
1 spot up.
Really high for him.
I think the concern is that Will Johnson didn't move up into that spot. And there's going to be there are going to be 2 cornerbacks probably selected in the top 20 somewhere.
I mean, Hunter aside, we were actually talking about this on a different show today. Johnson versus Barron, they're so different, but they're probably competing for first defensive back off the board other than Hunter.
Yeah.
Will
Campbell bumps down a spot to 11. Jihad Campbell bumps down 3 spots to 12, the linebacker out of Alabama. And I think, he had the surgery.
I would say he's got some injury stuff, too. Yeah.
That's concerning.
Yeah. You're going to use a 15th pick on a guy that's coming off pretty good big injury.
Omarion Hampton at 13, the running back out of North Carolina.
There's not much not to like about him.
Matthew Golden bumps up 2 spots to be his number 1 pure wide receiver.
Okay. He has him over McMillan then.
Yeah. Nick Emuwari at 15. Will Johnson, as we just talked about, bumps down 2 spots to 16.
Really like a corner to run.
Yeah. Tyler Booker moves up 3 spots to 17, the guard out of Alabama.
He's sluggish, man.
That's tough.
Emeka
Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, bumps down a spot to 18. So he has him ahead of Tet McMillan.
I get people loving Egbuka. I mean, that's pretty high, but I think he's going to be a good player.
He's a solid player.
Yeah, he's a good player. Right.
At 19 is Tet McMillan down a spot. So
opinions really vary.
At 20 down a spot, Shedeur Sanders.
It's probably about where he belongs.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet there's some edge rushers we haven't brought up that I put ahead of him just in terms of grade and.
Well, at 21 is Mike Green.
I think Green's better at what he does than what Sanders does.
22 is Michael Williams.
I like both those guys more than Sanders.
23 up 4 spots is Shamar Stewart. This is the edge
rusher. Now they're a bunch all together. Yeah.
Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon, down a spot to 24.
But he's ahead of Grant or Nolan.
Yes.
Fair.
Up 4 spots at 25 is Malachi Starks, safety
and
out of Georgia.
Was already listed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Down 2 spots at 26 is Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State.
I think Zabel's much better than Booker. They're different, obviously, but it'd be nice to have one of those safeties off the board in the top 22.
Yeah.
Even just one.
At 27, up 4 spots is Kelvin Banks Jr.
I'd love to see him go to the top
offensive
22.
tackle from Texas.
I have some doubts about him. But
28 is Walter Nolan.
Fair.
29 up 3 spots, LSU tight end Mason Taylor.
Getting a lot of inkling that maybe the Chiefs or Eagles pull the trigger on him.
Yeah.
I mean, Goddard could get traded. Kelsey, we know, is not long for this league anymore,
Yeah. At 30, down 5 spots, Donovan Ezereku, the edge rusher out of Boston College.
I like him.
31, down a spot, is Kenneth Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan.
I would have him way higher than that.
At 32, up 2 spots, Travion Henderson, the running back out of Ohio State.
High-quality prospect. I mean, you say this all the time. This area would be really hard to rank.
Yeah.
Like if any of these guys were 10 higher, 10 lower, I get it, man.
Yeah. Down 7 spots to 33 is James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee.
I don't know what he does against the run. I mean, I think he's kind of a specialty player.
34 is Maxwell Hairston, the Kentucky cornerback. That's up a spot.
A little small.
35, down 2 spots, is Luther Burden, the wide receiver out of Missouri.
If he's motivated and bought in, he's higher than that. If he's walking around like he did this past year, he's lower than that.
At 36, holding steady, is Jackson Dart.
Okay. That might be early, too, just on pure rankings, not value.
37, Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, and he says the main question with Simmons is his health.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if he had him 10th, I'd understand, too.
38 is Quinshad Judkins, running back out of Ohio State. 39 is Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle out of Oregon.
Those 2 tackles, I could see keeping them close together.
Yeah. Carson Schlesinger up 4 spots to 40, the linebacker out of UCLA.
There was such, I mean, I know the Steelers aren't in this market, but there was such a small amount of starting off-the-ball linebackers available in free agency. If you don't get Campbell, which is he's going to go in the first round, I can see Schlesinger going pretty high just because he's after him. I had no clue who to put as my third inside linebacker.
I still think, to me, the Georgia kid is an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, okay. But he's going to be gone, too.
He'll be gone.
Yeah.
Trey Amos at 42, holding steady. Up 3 spots, Landon Jackson, the edge rusher out of Arkansas.
I see that. I think he's a quality number 2, you know.
Down 4 spots to 44 is Benjamin Morrison, the Notre Dame cornerback.
You moved them down.
Yeah.
I'm just these injury guys, I just wonder if they're going up or down.
Yeah.
You know, Ravel and Simmons and blah, blah.
45, up 4 spots, is Nick Scourton, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M.
I think he's pretty safe, too.
Yeah. At 46, moving into his rankings, Jaden Higgins,
That's
wide receiver out of Iowa State.
Yeah.
47 is Jonas Ivania. He was unranked as well in his top 50 before.
Yeah, I mean, he tested really well, and, I mean, even if he's just a guard, I could see liking him more than Booker.
At 48, down a spot, is Toledo defensive tackle, Darius Alexander.
He fits everything the Steelers are looking for. Not a big school guy, or he's a little older, but, boy, he'd fit in well.
JT Tuamaloa, the edge rusher out of Ohio State, moves into the rankings at 49.
He's good.
At 50, moving into his top 50 rankings, was Jalen Noel, the other Iowa State wide receiver.
Yeah, some of these Welker types are starting to fade away. I mean, the league is looking for a vertical slot, like a Roman Wilson, like a Knoll. You know, I mean, one of these guys. They don't want just little quick guys in the slot now. You got to be able to stretch it a little bit.
Some other names of interest here, because he always did his top 50 before.
Yeah.
The guys that didn't quite make it, Elijah Araujo, tight end out of Miami.
Really run.
Jack Beck, wide receiver out of TCU.
He didn't run.
Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa.
Okay.
Noel Williams, the cornerback out of Cal.
He always talks about the Cal defensive backfield is just vastly underrated. If you can get Noel in the 4th or 5th round.
Noel Williams is a good player.
Me too.
Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia at 55.
Mm-hmm.
He tested really well.
I think he'll be a starter.
Kyle Williams, he has at 57.
Okay.
The wide receiver out of Washington State. Azirie Thomas, the cornerback out of Florida State, is at 60.
That's about right. I mean, if he goes to the end of the 2nd round of the Bills or something, I would totally understand.
He's got Miles Frazier, the LSU guard, and Tate Ratledge, the Georgia guard, at 61 and 62, right next to each other.
I totally get that, too. They both have some nastiness.
Yeah. Alfred Collins, the defensive tackle out of Texas, comes in at 66. Right behind him is Tyleek Williams, the nose tackle out of Ohio State.
different but similar in terms of helping to run now and then see what they bring as pass rushers.
Yeah. 68 is Dylan Sampson, the running back out of Tennessee. Siobhan Ravel, the East Carolina cornerback, all the way down at 71.
I wonder if he's not hearing great things medically.
Must not be.
I mean, small school corner that didn't play in the Senior Bowl or give you much tape against like Ohio State. It's a tough sell, but it could pay off huge.
Yeah. At 75, he has Tyler Shuck, quarterback out of Louisville.
Okay. Did he have Milroe yet?
No.
Okay.
Josh Farmer at 77, defensive tackle out of Florida State.
Sign me up as a quality third rounder all day on him.
Yeah. Let's see here. Ariante Ursary all the way down at 83, the offensive tackle out of Minnesota.
He's got work to do, but there's tools there.
Right ahead of Emory Jones, the LSU offensive tackle.
Really? Okay.
He must think he can play tackle if he's going to miss
I
high.
would think. I was about to say the same thing. There's some up and down to his tape. I mean, but there's traits there, and if he's a tackle, that goes a long way.
At 85 is Will Howard, the quarterback from Ohio State.
Ahead of Milroe.
86 is Jalen Milroe, the quarterback from Alabama.
I mean, depending what you're looking for, they're pretty different. They're both good athletes. One's a great athlete.
88 is Charles Grant, the William & Mary offensive tackle.
Okay.
89 is Shamar Turner, the Texas A&M defensive tackle.
He'd be a good Steeler, too. We don't give him enough publicity. Plays hard.
Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah State, all the way down at 93. I say all the way down. That's still a solid spot in this draft. Justin Wally, who we just took later, at 94, the Minnesota cornerback.
His name keeps popping up more and more and more.
Isaac Tesla, the Arkansas wide receiver, at 95.
I'd really like him in 5th round or so.
Jamari Caldwell, the Oregon defensive tackle, at 97.
Okay. Not a lot of pure noses you mentioned.
No. TJ Sanders, the South Carolina, he'd be a 3-4 end here.
Yeah.
At 98, followed by R.J. Harvey, the UCF running back.
Mm-hmm. This area is strong.
It's nice. Ahead of Cam Scatabo, who's at 102.
I prefer Harvey to Scatabo.
Yeah. At 103 is Ty Robinson, the Nebraska defensive tackle.
I'd love to see him in black and gold. It'd have to be in the 4th-ish round, 3rd round.
Yeah. Right after him is Elijah Roberts, the SMU defensive tackle.
Okay.
Let's see here. Riley Mills from Notre Dame at 108.
Really?
Defensive tackle.
Kind of high.
You got, let's see here. He's really high on Quincy Riley and Jalen Smith. He's got Riley at 113 and Jalen Smith, the cornerback out of USC, at 114.
Okay. Some of these mid-round corners are pretty intriguing.
Yeah. Get some tools.
Yeah. There's some stuff to build on.
He's got
There'll be some starters out of the group.
Wyatt Millum, the West Virginia offensive lineman, is at 117.
I can see the Steelers liking him.
Yeah, followed by Anthony Belton, the NC State offensive tackle.
Okay. I think Belton will stay at tackle, or at least start there.
119 is Quinn Ewers, quarterback out of Texas. 120 is Bashal Tootin, the Virginia Tech running back.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some rawness to his game, but there's a lot to work with there, too.
At 121 is Alec Ayemanor.
I'm a fan.
Stanford wide receiver. Guys has him just ahead of Savion Williams, the TCU wide receiver, at 123. He's just
I think he's a wide receiver, but
continue to drift down.
Yeah.
What is he?
He's less and less.
Yeah. Upton Stout at 125, the Western Kentucky slot corner, but
I think he's also a gunner and
all kinds of good stuff there. Denzel Burke at 126, the Ohio State cornerback. Let's see here. DJ Giddens at 130, the K-State running back.
He's an athlete that could hit big for you.
Yeah. Jordan Hancock, the Ohio State cornerback, at 133.
I don't know if he's a safety, a slot, a corner. Just in today's NFL, I don't really care, right?
Ty Hamilton, the other Ohio State defensive tackle, at 134, followed by J.J. Pegues, the Mississippi defensive tackle.
Hamilton slept on.
A little bit, yeah.
I don't know if he fits perfect here, but no one ever brings his name up.
Kyle McCord, the quarterback out of Syracuse, is at 138.
Would you take him ahead of Ewers and Howard if you had to pick from like those three? I think Ewers would be last for me.
Yeah, he's tiny.
I don't know. I don't see the great traits.
I don't either. Ollie Gordon at 141, the running back out of Oklahoma State. Rutgers defensive tackle, Keontae Hamilton, is at 142.
What's he listed at height weight?
He is listed at, I knew you were going to ask me that.
Yeah.
I clicked on it before. 6'3", 300 pounds.
Okay, she's kind of middle of the road in terms of.
Yeah. Played in 51 consecutive games in his college career, though. That's
Really?
pretty impressive, actually.
The Rutgers guys always play hard.
Yeah. No, I lost my spot here on the mock because Matt had to ask me a question.
Yeah, jeez.
Guy, really haven't done a lot of homework on him.
Me neither. I didn't know much about him. That's why I'm curious.
Trevor Etienne at 143, the Georgia running back. C.J. West at 144, the defensive tackle out of Indiana.
I would gladly take him at that price.
Yeah. Devin Neal at 146, the Kansas running back.
The group of running backs is still strong.
Yeah. Brashard Smith is at 149, the SMU, just pure speed.
Mm-hmm.
And Yaha Black at 150, the Iowa defensive tackle.
His game sticks around.
Yeah.
It lasts, you know.
He's just a big power player.
Him and Tim Smith, I always think of together.
Yeah.
Just rocks in the middle with
Go in there and don't let anybody move you.
Yeah, just be a bully.
Yeah, that's kind of what they are. So that was DJ's 150.
Okay.
And a little different.
He puts a lot of pride in that. He stands by it, and most of it's what he sees, but I'm sure there's some what he hears too.
Yeah, some of those guys that moved up into the top 32 might be of interest.
Might be.
The reason, really in this draft, is there a reason why you bump, for example, Travion Henderson to 32?
Just to say, well, I had him in the first round too, right?
I had him as the 32nd best guy.
Keep hearing him to Denver.
Yeah.
Which I'd be fine with. I wouldn't mind him going off the board in the top 20.
Especially if they took him over Omari and Hampton, and you were like,
I was thinking all three might be gone.
Maybe.
Yeah. If Genty goes to the Raiders and the Bears take Hampton, I could see that's best case scenario.
Keep hearing Genty to Jacksonville.
I threw that out there in our last mock just out of the blue. Like, if I'm the Jags, I don't like any of my options. Just give me the best player.
Yeah.
I think that makes all the sense in the world. People talk about giving them like Walker off the edge. I'm like, it's not what they need at all. And is he that special? I mean, I don't see it.
Yeah. Anyways, that was DJ's top 150 here. I'm sure he'll probably come out with his final mock here in the next couple of days.
I would think, that's probably right down to the wire.
See a lot of that coming out here over the next couple of days. Everybody doing their final mock draft. We'll do our final mock draft for this show on Wednesday.
Okay, that works.
We may not trade it all.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
See how it goes. But anyways, he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday. Not this week because we'll be doing all draft stuff. Thursday,
Friday, hard to find
Saturday.
Days.
Yeah. But you can hear us here on these very airways. You can also download the Steelers mobile app, get all the shows there. You can just play that on your phone all draft weekend.
Yes.
We'll have shows
just hit play
wall to wall.
Or walk away.
And just do that. Or you can watch along on YouTube and leave us your comments there. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that. We will be back to finish up the show right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, the Ravens apparently opened their OTA sessions today.
Oh, really?
Because I saw a lot of stuff from Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton talking about how they haven't had any contract talks yet.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's going to be hairy for those guys. I mean, it's always a great problem to have players you want to pay.
Right.
But fifth-year option, we've gone into a lot of detail with those two, is really pricey, especially for Linderbaum because centers just
He's a center.
Yeah. You got to pay him like a tackle, which is a loophole, really, or a problem with the CBA that I hope they address going forward, just be better. And I bet people are like...
The players, here's the problem with that. The NFLPA probably doesn't want that addressed.
Why is that? Why would you say that?
Well, because they're representing the players, and the players get more money.
Yeah, but not if you don't get the tag. I mean, if you're Linderbaum and they say we're not going to give it to you, but then you hit free agency.
But then he's going to hit free agency, and you're happy regardless.
Yeah, I mean, he'd make a lot of money on the open market.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I'm sure some people maybe weren't listening last week. What do you mean OTAs are starting now? They haven't even made their draft picks. Well, this version of OTAs is like as light as they get.
Yeah,
I mean, they're as
just out there
optional as they get too. Yeah.
So for Linderbaum, for example, Juergens just signed a new deal.
Oh, did he?
With the Eagles, 4-year contract extension at $68 million.
Okay.
$39.4 million guaranteed.
Wow.
Now that's a shade under $20 million per year, but that's 17-ish.
Yeah. Hamilton will come in heavier than that.
You mean Linderbaum?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, Linderbaum will make more than that.
Yeah.
I believe.
And therein lies the rub with this. If you're
Right.
the Ravens, you're like, oh man, I don't like to see that.
Yeah, I've mocked Booker to them a lot. Maybe a first round guard doesn't make sense for the same reason when it is 5th-year option time.
Yeah.
Maybe you just wait till the second takes.
Can we pay all these interior linemen all this?
Right.
Even if this guy hits,
and you're hoping he hits, and that's a good problem to have. But
now we're paying 2 interior offensive linemen.
$45 million between them, or something like that. Right.
I understand.
Not to mention
the cap
Stanley's
is
making
going
money.
up.
Of course. But right. I mean,
the cost is.
Like
significant.
Steelers had a lot of success with Pouncey next to DeCastro. But think about what that would cost now.
Now,
I mean, to be top of the line center.
Yeah, it makes I don't think that the 5th-year option is as valuable now as it used to be.
I don't either. That's why I know they've never done it. But if you trade out of round 1, it's like you're probably not going to use a 5th-year option anyway, and you can still make a contract. You could extend Pickens now. He wasn't a first-round pick.
Yeah.
I get it. There is value there.
It gives you more leeway. Now, I understand
does.
if you like the player.
It buys you another year.
If you like the player, you like the player.
Yeah.
And there's great value in not moving out of the first round.
Like you might be real happy when Broderick Jones's time comes up to, we have that extra year. We have one more year to think about things.
Yeah, but it's just, with the way that is all slotted now under this new CBA. And again, if your player goes to a Pro Bowl, that's not a very high bar.
No, it's a lot different than he's an All-Pro.
But all of a sudden now it kicks in. He's making an additional $4 million fully guaranteed in that 5th year, and it's like, ugh.
It's a lot for a running back or some of these safeties, some of those positions where he's not an All-Pro, but he went to a Pro Bowl, and now I got to pay him that much.
Tyler Huntley went to a Pro Bowl.
Right. Like a lot of these guys down the line, it doesn't take that much.
Yeah, so. It's just that might be something that the league looks at, or they talk to the NFLPA about and say, hey,
let's just change the parameters.
Let's change the parameters here a little bit.
That may make sense.
Just making the Pro Bowl is not like you should have to be voted to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that may be at least something. Not I end up going to the event.
I'm the 6th alternate, and I go to the Pro Bowl, and now all of a sudden the team's got to pay me an additional $8 million when my 5th-year option comes up.
But back to your original point, I am really interested to see how the Hamilton-Linderbaum stuff shakes out.
I'm kind of surprised they haven't had any contract talks with those guys as of yet.
I've seen Enuare and Starks both mock to the Ravens, but I would not be comfortable letting Hamilton go, even if I use a first-round pick on a safety.
Yeah.
Those are two of your most
important guys. But then you get yourself into a similar situation if you do that, if you go that route, where now you might be paying your 2 starting safeties
a ton
of money.
And Roquan's a big one too. I mean, not everyone's paying a linebacker top of the line money. They are.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic.
It is. I mean, they're built a little different.
But they're not paying any
else.
edge rushers.
No, that's a good point too. Yeah, maybe that's a first-round pick this year too.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, they're. I like where their roster's at, but there is some juggling to be done here coming up.
Yeah, for sure. But Matt, that's going to do it for today's show.
Happy draft week.
Happy draft week to you. Happy draft week to everybody out there listening. We will be back again tomorrow to talk. Well, probably more draft, I would think.
Probably.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Unless a certain quarterback decides that he's going to sign his name on the dotted line.
I don't expect a whole lot of news between now and
I do not either.
Thursday.
No, I do not either. But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, running the soundboard and the Justin Miller hotline, and for Tyler Vittmeyer, making sure that our video gets out there onto YouTube. Check that out there. Give us a thumbs up. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.